Sure. So as part of the new live streaming that we're doing this evening, everyone needs to be, if they want to be heard, you have to be connected to a microphone. The system is hardwired with our sound system. So council members, only when you're speaking should you see a blue light. Otherwise, turn it off. For the public, if you want to speak, you have to go to the microphone in order to be heard. Okay? Yep. I'll come up and take care of it.
Okay. That being said, I'd like to call to order the Township of Concord Council meeting for April 2nd, 2019. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to also add for the record that the council met in executive session around 6:30 this evening to discuss some litigation issues as well as some real estate issues. That being said, is anyone, Concord Township makes it a policy that Barbara records our meetings in order to assist her in developing the minutes. Is anyone else recording the meeting at this point? We would ask that you state so now. Seeing none, we will move on with the agenda.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to renew my objection under the Sunshine Laws regarding disclosure.
Thank you. Moving right along, Township.
Devices.
Okay.
Thank you.
Township Council approval. First item on the agenda is the public meeting minute approvals for March 5th, 2019 regular meeting and the March 26th, 2019 agenda meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the total expenditures for the month, which is $418,771.67, which is made up of a March payroll of $158,095.33, current bills totaling $189,569.70, and sewer bills totaling $71,106.64. I have a motion to approve those expenditures.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Monthly activity reports, Pennsylvania State Police. I do not see anyone here, but if they do get here, we'll go right to them. Next item on the agenda is the sewer department. Mr. Gillespie.
Yes, thank you. I do have the monthly activity report for March from our manager of operations from the Concord Township Sewer Department. Both the main plant and Riviera plant continue to meet discharge requirements within the parameters of the NPDES permit, and the operations staff performed 12 lateral inspections for resale certification. Additionally, we have on our township website all information regarding sewer credits and meters. There's been some phone calls to the office about that, and the information is on the website. The end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Code Enforcement, Mano. Okay, his report is part of the record. Planning Commission, Rich Juleson, please.
President, council members, Planning Commission's March commission was Sure, can you hear me now? Okay. Preliminary land development at 1097 Smithbridge Road. The plan proposes to remove the existing garage and construct a new 11,188 square foot building to be used as a daycare center. No action was taken at that time. The commission voted unanimously to approve the preliminary plan approval of the 322 Plaza Associates land development plan at 86 Baltimore Pike, subject to compliance with consultant's review letter. The plan proposes to construct a new 14,400 square foot building to be used as a contractor's shop. They will be returning with the final land development plan. The commission also reviewed the Maris Grove Phase 2 skilled nursing final development plan at Maris Grove Way. They are proposing a 78,636 square foot, 84-unit Maris Grove Neighborhood Number 2 skilled nursing assisted living facility. The Planning Commission unanimously recommend final development approval subject to compliance to consultant's review letter. There was no other commission matters. The agenda meeting will be April 8th. Public meeting will be April 15th. Caucus meeting will be April 30th. That concludes.
Solicitor, Mr. Donahue.
Yes, be advised that Ionis's did appeal the decision regarding the township's decision on the demo permits of the historical buildings on Baltimore Pike, and the township will respond accordingly. Also be advised that there were questions raised at the last meeting. An application would come in for a marijuana dispensary facility. Would the township notify the public of the same? But be advised, on March 26th, an application was received by the township by GTI Incorporated for a property located at 68 Watkins Avenue. There's a tentative hearing, zoning hearing board hearing scheduled for May 15th. And that's all I have, sir.
To you. Mano, you want to? Yeah, we were going to wait for you, but. Mano, you got to use the microphone, otherwise. Mano, you got to stay. Mano, you got to stay right where it was, and you got to face us. And you got to put the microphone closer to your face too, please.
All right. March 2019, building permits, 10 plumbing permits, and mechanical permits, 15 electrical permits, 10 alone zoning permits, 7 in total. 14 resale certificates, 1 for 1 electrical, 2 sign permits, occupancy.
Township Engineer Nate is not here. Megan, you're sitting tonight? Okay.
Report on right now. Nate Klein is sick tonight, so there's nothing to report on.
No report. Nate is sick, but she's subbing for him. Okay. Township Manager Amanda.
Sure, I just want to mention a couple quick things. One, the demolition of the 30 Bethel Road property has taken place. Thank you, everybody, for your patience during the closing of the dog park. That has been reopened, and Township Council, as part of the open space update, is going to be working on plans for that site and area. I know I've gotten some questions, so stay tuned, but the dog park is back open there currently. Additionally, I wanted to add that we did have a meeting with Darlington Arts as part of some of our exciting partnering this summer. John Crossan can step in. He was there with me. But what I wanted to mention tonight as part of what we ironed out was that on June 4th, that council meeting date, we will have an artist reception with the Darlington students. And we've talked about possibly having the location at the community center as part of an open house prior to the regular meeting at 6:00 p.m. So more details to come and flesh out, but I just wanted to at least announce that now, that date, that's what we're looking at. And that's all I have to report.
Public forum, public comment. Rufus? And you got to get closer to the microphone, please.
Get close to the microphone and you can look straight.
All right. I'm Rufus Miley, Leopard. I want to township fresh start. indicated that challenge
There's various appeals with respect to open records, yes.
testing 1, 2, 3. We have two challenge decisions that have been made on the open record. Correct?
I don't know if there's two right at this point or one, but there's been a number of challenges to open records over the course of the last year.
We actually battled it out.
Yes, sir. One where we went to court and battled it out, yes.
What are the other matters?
I just indicated that the present time, other than what's been discussed at other meetings, we have the Hyonis appeal. That's litigation that's ongoing right at this point in time. There has been litigation that an insurance company is handling involving the township. That's the litigation that's going on right now. When you use the term litigation, what do you?
However, I don't.
And there's an open records matter with Mr. Cleary has filed. That. Excuse me, I said there was an open records matter involving Mr. Cleary. Okay. But that Mr. Cleary, I'm speaking to Rufus Miley. I'm not speaking to you. You're more. So anyway, that's my understanding, Mr. Miley.
One point, the back condo defined by this. They were that.
Yeah, we've discussed that. That's been ongoing.
I'm trying to figure out what's still open.
That's still open. That's been discussed, and that's still open. Yes.
Are there others that are open?
I don't. I couldn't tell you right at this moment, other than Pulte's open. We have discussed every case that's open. Pulte is still open. There are no other new cases that we have discussed at previous meetings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 7A. Talk about more about what the plan is. Comment. You do it now or do it?
I would just as soon you do it now, Rufus.
Well, particularly I want to talk about potholes. We talked about this before. Done before. Not hold up. Hazard to drive on at this point in time.
Kirk between Barnett Mine and Featherbed. Or no, probably what's that first subdivision where the stop sign is by Ken Miller's house? Yeah. Along that one shoulder is deteriorating.
Shoulder is driving.
Right. Okay.
What is that?
Amanda, do you have the road program there?
I'm sorry?
Kirk Road. Is Kirk Road on the road program?
I don't see. They're still finalizing the list for bid, for final discussion. I'm not exactly sure. I believe there's portions that possibly could be, but I'm not sure. Nate's actually not here tonight. Megan, there was a preliminary list given to council at the agenda meeting last week, but it's still being fleshed out because of the estimates and how much budget we have.
Well, if I could make a suggestion for Nate and Megan, if you can pass this along to him, I don't know if it is on the list, but perhaps we've been fortunate in previous years that once we do establish the list, we have been able to get bids that have come in lower than budget. So if for nothing else, that should be on, it is on there?
It is on the preliminary list
Good.
for Kirk Road, Penrose Tally to Garnet Mine Road.
That
However, it all determines the estimates that come out as well.
No, I agree.
Well, I would like to make a suggestion that the fact that these road program won't happen until the summer, that we go out and do some temporary patching.
Patching's not.
The temporary patching will have to hold up until we can actually award a contract.
That a step.
We could have our highway department go out and do some temporary patching.
Put it on the road.
Certainly.
That.
We would have to talk.
Not sure at this point.
We would have to talk to Nate, but Nate's been around long enough to know that it just doesn't make sense to paint over a bunch of paving that is already alligatoring, because normally it's the subsurface part of the paving that is causing the problem. So I'm sure he has that covered. We can talk to him when we see him. And Megan, if you can make a note of that maybe Nate could report back to council about what the scope of the repairs would be on that section of road. But Penrose Tally is that first street coming from Bethel after you go past Garnet Mine Road, and that's the worst stretch of it. Okay?
Last time we talked about 8.
I don't recall, but we'll go through the list more thoroughly. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Cleary?
David Cleary's 72 Schoolhouse Lane. Actually had a discussion at Garnet Valley today. I have a son with autism. Actually, National Autism Awareness Day today. I was talking to the school and saying that whenever they have music at an autism event, the DJ inevitably gets too close to the mic and actually hear them, unfortunately, and the kids are sensory autistic and can't handle it, but the DJ doesn't even realize how loud they are in the mic, just like the people tonight didn't realize. Like I'm a rock star.
If it's easier to take it out of the holster, that's fine too.
My first question for tonight, in September, I asked about a filing at the court. I was already involved in a Concord Township, decided to take me to court over an open record. If I could approach, Mr. President, I have copies of Ordinance 375, the Homeroom Charter. It out for the audience. Page 6 of Ordinance 375, the Homeroom Charter, it says specifically to approve by resolution adopted by affirmative vote of at least a majority of council to initiate or settle litigation involving the township. My understanding was the litigation pursued, I was the other party in it, was never voted by resolution in a recorded vote in a public meeting, and that's a clear violation of the Ordinance 375, the Homeroom Charter. I asked in September, followed up with a right to know request, followed up with email prior to the right to know request to Ms. Rock. I'm asking to see the record of that resolution for that approval and the recorded vote of it. If that doesn't exist, you violated your homeroom charter, home rule charter. And is there any course of action?
Do you know which litigation he is referring to?
I believe
August, filed in early August. I can follow up with a number. You know which one it is. You went and filed at court in early August, and you didn't have authorization from the town. Correct?
Are you finished, Mr. Cleary?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. If you read this, it indicates majority of council to initiate or settle litigation.
You initiated.
Sir, I know you like to be judge and jury, but if you can give me 1 minute, I'll try to explain.
No, I don't want to listen to you
Okay.
belittle me for a minute like you always do.
Mr. Cleary, I'm not belittling anybody. I'm just trying to answer
You
your
belittle
question.
me every time I come here, sir. I'm tired of your disrespect. You guys need to answer the question. Mr. Tereski, you worked on the homeroom charter. You don't need to defer to him to answer this question. It clearly states that before he goes and files on behalf of the township a legal action against a citizen like me, you guys have to vote in a public vote, and it has to be recorded by a resolution. He cannot make up the rules as he's been allowed to do forever. And I'm not going to sit here and have him belittle me, try to explain that there's some kind of legalese. He violated the charter going and filing that action against him.
I don't,
Text if you need it.
yeah, I don't have the charter in front of me, and you only gave us one page, Mr. Cleary, out of many, so I don't know the exact context. And I'm not saying it's either right or wrong. I just don't have the full context at this point, but I will look into it. You know I will.
Go ahead. If you're deferring to the solicitor to make some legalese explanation, he can on the record.
No, I think what I would like to do is I would like the solicitor to review the charter, report back to council, and if we did not do that, it seems as though it's fairly easy to remedy. We would do it at the next
Legal
meeting.
review? That does not make sense to have the fox watch the hen house. We have an alternate solicitor.
We do. We have Jerry Montello. We'll have Jerry look at it, and if Jerry says that we were somehow remiss.
He listed somewhere on the record as the alternate solicitor?
We have used Jerry, does our sewer department
You're
solicitor
going to have a
work.
resolution to make sure that it's laying flat.
I think we will check our reorganization meeting. but I
Gentlemen,
think
if I may, Mr. President, before anyone makes any decisions, the gentleman has the right to speak. He has the right to express his opinion. Also, the township has an obligation to follow its rules and regulations. I am not going to attempt this evening to answer Mr. Cleary because if I do, I am either belittling him or criticizing him or whatever. But I would be more than happy to prepare this board with a written response to Mr. Cleary's issue, and we'll give Mr. Cleary a copy thereof. That way, no one can feel that they've been criticized, no one can feel that they've been belittled, and we can handle this in a rational basis.
I don't agree because he's in violation, and that should not be the party answering whether he violated township code or not.
I'm comfortable in Mr. Donahue giving us an opinion that whether
There's
we
7
complied.
council members. Is every council member comfortable in using him to check whether he followed the law in this?
I have no problem with it. What's everyone else's thoughts?
Mr. Cleary, if you don't agree, obviously, with my opinion or someone else's opinion, you have the right to take the necessary legal steps, like you always do.
There's your belittling, like I always do, like it's inappropriate as a citizen.
If
the question is government, sir.
I'm not belittling anybody. I'm just speaking to the fact.
The way you speak is belittling, sir. So the action is for him to go back and...
I think Mr.
Cleary.
Gillespie has an idea.
Mr. Cleary, I think we can resolve this rather quickly. I make a motion that we appoint Jerry Montella as our alternate solicitor to review the facts in his case and report back to our township council. That's in the form of a motion.
You don't want to do that because Mr. Montello is also the party that decides how cases get assigned. Assignment of this case had some very unusual aspects to it. I would recommend that you find some other individual besides Mr. Montello. All the judges recuse themselves from Court of Common Pleas, and Mr. Montello is responsible for the random process of selecting a judge. That can of worms is huge.
Mr. President, can I make a
Montello.
suggestion? Can I make a suggestion that this sounds like it could end up in litigation and there's other actions here? Why don't we listen to Mr. Cleary, and then we can take it under advisement either at our next meeting or in an executive session at some time if we feel it rises to a litigation standard. But I don't know that we're going to get anywhere making any decisions at this
The
point.
litigation it's not a civil matter, it's a criminal matter.
Mr.
Well,
Twersky,
we're listening to you, and then we'll...
I can agree with what Mr. Twersky said, and I know this will go down in history as being so, but I think that I have no problem doing it. Is that acceptable to you? What Mr. Twersky said.
Repeat real quick, who's going to review
It's
it?
public comment. We would like to listen to what you have to say, and we will take it up at a later date. Or you're not finished speaking yet, so let's hear what...
I have another question.
Let's hear what you have to say, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, but
to get back to me has been pretty empty over the years. I will get an answer.
Are we
You'll get an answer.
agreed
You'll get an
on
answer.
this one particular issue to Mr. Twersky's solution? That we will take this under advisement and report back to you?
Yeah, and just
Okay.
realize my concern about Mr. Montello.
Okay,
as well.
your next issue, please.
What I'm providing is a letter. I can read it. It's pretty simple. Dated April 12, 2012. I found this over to Christmas, cleaning out my office, and Mr. Donahue represented on numerous occasions that he never obtained, or Concord Township did not have, or Concord Township did not have copies of the Court of Common Pleas ruling involving the Capellis and their property on 139 Schoolhouse Lane. This letter from him here says, "Gentlemen, enclosed, please find a copy of the Court of Common Pleas opinion indicating excavation of the property since early 1960s. I don't even make sense. That's one sentence. It's signed by Mr. Donahue. He's repeatedly represented on behalf of Concord Township that no record existed in Concord Township. A letter I have obtained from the public records says otherwise. Now, the public records didn't have the file that he provided to Mr. Robert Willer and Mr. Manos Cavadillas. I'm saying that he falsely represented having and providing the file, and the evidence of it is this letter, where he clearly states that he brought and delivered the file to both Mr. Willard and Mr. Cavadillas.
Anything else? Barbara can hold it.
Matter oath regarding Mr. Pledge and or the Concord Township supervisors having the state police watch me or having me called for supposedly inappropriate behavior. I realize the tough questions I ask, and it's recorded. I'm looking at transcript statements under oath. I'll quick read them, and you can. Dominic Pledge said, "Call the state police." Objection. Hearsay, Your Honor. Sustained. And then Mr. O'Donoghue went on to say, "I called the state police on my own. I was told we have a bike patrol, and the bike patrol came and sat at the Concord Township table for the next 2 hours to monitor Mr. Cleary." State police bike. State police ever get called?
Dave, I have no idea what you're talking about, what event it happened, what that deposition even says. What is that dated? Kevin hasn't been.
O'Donoghue claimed that I was.
Well, then that's between you and Mr. O'Donoghue.
Statement. I did not know until then. Since that time, we have the state police officers come to the meetings, especially and specifically to watch the conduct of Mr. Cleary. So you're saying Mr. O'Donohue is speaking out of turn, and
You'd have to ask Mr. O'Donohue that. I'm not Mr.
I'm asking
O'Donohue.
you, were the state police ever requested to watch?
I don't recall.
Pretty easy, yes or no.
I don't recall.
Anybody? Gillespie?
I don't even know what you're talking about right
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Mr. O'Donohue learned about my Sunday morning jogging, and he made.
But that was his. We're jogging by his house. That's between you and him. That had nothing to do with us.
Jogging in another part of the neighborhood.
Dave,
he used your name. That's why.
I don't know what he was talking about.
You're saying that it was never done.
Dave, we need to move on. I don't know, Dave. I don't know. Anybody else? Maureen, I think you wanted to say something. Come on up, please.
I'm sorry. It's 68 Watkins Avenue, I believe.
Something on that dinosaur putt-putt?
No, it's just it's on appeal. We turned it down, and it's on appeal. It's hanging out there. Nothing new has happened.
Okay, so they're appealing the 274 townhouse.
Yes. But wait a minute. But my understanding is they may have moved. I haven't received a notice to discontinue, settle, and end, saying that the matter is over. But I've also been told that they may be moving on. I don't even know if they're going to follow the appeal to its logical conclusion. They may abandon it. But don't hold me to that because I haven't seen a final court document.
Okay. And public sewer heading towards Penn's. Talked about that possibility.
Yes, we are working on that. We need to do a physical survey of the residents, see how they are reacting to it. So far, the emails and conversations have been positive. We did allow Walt Fasler, our engineer, to get started on the 537 plan revision because as anyone that had sewers in their neighborhood, that's the longest part of the equation.
So just say every 537 goes in. What kind of time frame?
I don't recall. I think if I'm not mistaken, DEP has like 6 months to review it, and then there's public comment. I think from the time, we have a gentleman here that went through it, by the time we authorized it to the time they were done, I guess it was a 2-year process? Yeah, a couple of years.
Right.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move right on in the agenda. First item of business is resolution number 25 of 2019, which is a resolution regarding the videotaping and or recording of the Concord Township Council meetings. I thought maybe I would read this resolution in and call for a vote in order to generate the discussion or any questions. The resolution reads as follows: whereas the Concord Township Council recognizes the rights of all interested parties to film or record any public meetings. And whereas the Concord Township Council believes public participation in township meetings should be encouraged and promoted. And whereas Concord Township believes that the recording and or videotaping of a public meeting should not interfere with the public's participation in the meeting. And whereas Concord Township believes that all individuals, before speaking at a public meeting, have the right to know that they will be recorded. Now therefore be it resolved, prior to every public meeting, the person conducting the meeting on behalf of Concord Township shall ascertain at the beginning of each meeting whether any attendee will be recording the meeting and will so advise the other attendees of the meeting of the name of each individual who is recording and or filming the meeting. Further, all videotaping and or recording equipment shall be located at the perimeter meeting room so as not to interfere with public participation in the meeting. As I said before, I would ask for a motion and a second in order to generate discussion on this. Do we have a motion to approve this? Do we have a second? Any questions or discussion?
I do. With respect to this resolution and having to first disclose whether I or someone else is recording the meeting, I'm not doing this. This is a ridiculous resolution. Now puts in writing an intimidating, illegal, and unnecessary practice. And I will not be told to kneel before the king before recording him in public. I just wonder if you realize that the technology now exists so that meetings can be recorded even without you knowing. Cameras and phones, soda cans.
Yeah, I know that firsthand because you've done that.
And eyeglasses, just to name a few. You don't seem to understand that the technology has overtaken your ideas on how to intimidate the public. If you're afraid people don't know they are potentially being recorded, then just hang a sign on the front of the dais or elsewhere advising of such. I don't know where these people are living nowadays, but if they still exist, a sign will solve that issue. I just also wonder, this terribly crafted resolution, what happens if somebody doesn't know that they plan on recording the meeting when they first start, and you have to ascertain, and then during like new business, for example, or somewhere else during the meeting, they decide, hey, this seems interesting, maybe I should get this for a later date or to post up on social media or whatever for that matter. It doesn't really matter. Is there going to be an additional time? Do they need to raise their hand? Do they need to send a letter? I mean, how is this going to be taken? And also, the way this reads is that all recording equipment needs to be located at the perimeter of the meeting room so as to not interfere with public participation in the meeting. I mean, is the fear here that there's going to be issues with, huge big cameras interfering with the meeting? I mean, is this no good to record right here? It has to be at the perimeter. Can somebody use a phone out in the out in the audience? I mean, what are we doing here?
Is Mr. Twerski? I don't want to interrupt Mr. Twerski.
Excuse me?
Mr. Solicitor, I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Twerski made a statement that this proposed resolution is illegal. Did you prepare this resolution?
I did.
Is it legal or illegal?
I believe it to be legal.
Thank you.
And I have something to say about that too. Mr. Donahue, I have very little faith and give very little credence to your legal opinions anymore. Your firm about 2 weeks ago inserted itself into a legal challenge by Concord New Republicans related to the untrue statement of a financial interest filed by insurance company defense attorney, Concord Township Planning Commission member, and Concord GOP council candidate Michael Harding. Mr. Harding already had an attorney out of Haverford Township named James McAndrew Jr. representing him when your firm inserted itself, knowing that I am now being supported by Concord New Republicans for re-election to council after a high-profile reneging of my council endorsement by the Concord GOP.
Josh,
I think this was a conflict, unethical, and breaks the trust that a council member must have with the solicitor in order to get unbiased advice. I had my suspicions that Mr. Donahue was beholden to the Concord GOP and to the president of this council, but now I'm 100% sure.
Mr. President, I have, in response to some of Josh's concerns, I have some amendments that I'd like to propose, just passing these down. And so in the whereas section, then I'd like to propose adding 2 whereas clauses. So the first whereas clause reads, whereas the Pennsylvania Open Records Office has noted that the Sunshine Act allows agencies to issue rules concerning the use of recording devices in order to avoid any disruptions, provided that such rules should not be an attempt to prevent a member of the public from recording a meeting. Secondly, whereas the Concord Township Home Rule Charter states that the council shall establish the time, place, and rules of conduct for its regular and special meetings, section 2.08. So I propose adding those 2 whereas clauses. Then down in the first, further, all videotaping and recording equipment shall be located at the perimeter of the meeting room, and then insert the language, or in such a location, so as not to interfere with the public participation of the meeting. And then add 2 further clauses. Further, notice shall be posted at the entrance to the public meeting room that the public meetings are subject to recording. And further, notice shall be printed as able on public meeting agendas. The public meetings are subject to recording. Mr. President, I move those amendments.
Okay.
And they are perfectly reasonable.
Anyone Do we need to have another motion to revise resolution number 25 of 2019 to incorporate Mr. Crossan's amendments? John, would that be a motion?
I believe that my motion to amend just needs a second, and then that overrides the original motion.
Do we have a second to Mr. Warren? Second? Any further discussion?
Is this, so we're going to send emails at 4 o'clock with all of the people on the new Environmental Advisory Committee to vote on tonight, and we're going to do these changes inside 30 seconds for a resolution. I don't, this is hashtag bad government. That's what this is.
Mr. Twersky, are we not allowed to deliberate and amend resolutions to improve them and refine them?
Not within 30 seconds, especially something that, as far as I'm concerned,
I believe we actually are allowed to do that.
Patently illegal. You can do lots of things. Is it good government? No.
We have
this is not the way
we have a motion and a second.
And I will not follow this resolution.
Okay, fine. A motion and a second. John, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just have a question for our solicitor. Mr. Donahue, the changes that are proposed by Mr. Crossan, is this in disagreement with anything that you had prepared, or does this seem illegal to you, these added words?
These changes are reasonable. No, it does not change in any way the resolution that I drafted it. So it's fine.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor, please say yes, ma'am. Your name?
Ma'am, can you please come to the microphone? Thank you very much.
Question. Can you tell me what you guys are talking about right now in English so we understand what you just said?
We have
What is the issue? I don't understand what the issue is.
We have had a practice in the past that anyone that wanted to record the meeting had to identify themselves at the beginning of the meeting.
Why?
Because it just was for the orderly conduct of the meeting.
No.
Why?
Why, Dominic?
Why? Because it helped us to conduct the meeting. We had Dan Foster that must have recorded 24 meetings in a row.
Who's Dan Foster?
He's head of the local Concord Township Democratic Party. Mr. Cleary, I think, recorded a meeting once here. Ken Hempel recorded a meeting.
Wait a minute. What's the problem?
We don't have a problem. All we asked is that, and they all complied with this. We asked that they told us they were recording the meeting, that everybody in the room knew they were being recorded, and we asked.
Why should I have to tell you I'm recording a meeting?
There's no expectation of privacy. No. There's no expectation of privacy in a public meeting.
This is a public meeting. Is this?
It is a public meeting, and it is being recorded
What's
right
privacy?
now.
Why are we talking privacy now?
I'm not talking privacy. It was for the conduct of the meeting, and all we asked is they identify themselves, and they perfectly, and it was respectfully done, they set up on one side of the room or the other and recorded the whole meetings. We had no problems with that.
So
it's been a practice of ours for numerous years. And all we're trying to do...
I would like to hear Josh speak.
All we're trying to do... Let me speak, please. Let me have a turn. All we're trying to do is take a practice that we have had in effect for almost 3 years, maybe 4 years, and make it into a policy. That's all we're doing.
But it has no substantive purpose. It has no substantive purpose whatsoever.
I disagree.
Well, but what's the purpose?
What's the purpose?
What is the substantive purpose?
I think one could argue that with rights, such as the right to record this meeting, come responsibilities. And just like we all have a right to vote, you still have to register to vote. There's a process to go through.
Wait, what does that have to do with us recording anything?
What I'm proposing is what this proposes is that with the right to record this meeting, there's a process that you should follow, and this is what the process is, and it's enumerating.
John, this is a public meeting.
Right.
Yeah, don't interrupt the process. That should be the issue. But merely recording is a right granted under the Sunshine Act. And for you to know whose name makes no sense whatsoever. It's an intimidation tactic at the bare at best.
I meet Mr. Crossan's amendment that comes from the Sunshine Act, whereas the Pennsylvania Open Records Law has noted that the Sunshine Act allows agencies to issue rules concerning the use of recording devices in order to avoid any disruptions, provided that such rules should not be an attempt to prevent a member of the public from recording the meeting.
Right, so how does getting somebody's name prevent
We are not
disruption?
preventing anyone from recording the meeting. We just ask that we have done in the past that they identify themselves and they don't act in a way that would be disruptive to the meeting.
The second part is fine. It's the first part that makes no sense whatsoever. If somebody's being disruptive, yeah, make a rule, write it down. I get it. That's fine. Let's write down if you're being disruptive.
Dave,
you
you
can't
have something
do
to
that.
say because we're going to take a vote. We have
Yes,
to move on with the agenda.
My understanding is now that Concord Township was recording meetings.
We are, right now.
Without disclosing it in the past.
I don't have.
No, today is the first day we've recorded the
So
meetings.
the audio files that the township manager had been recording of the meetings in the past were never disclosed.
Yes, it was. At every meeting it's disclosed. We mentioned that she uses a recorder to assist her in developing the
I've been to a lot of
minutes.
meetings and I never
Well,
heard it.
then you haven't been to one in a while because that's been as long as I've been
I was
here. I've been
last
saying that.
September, remember? We
Okay,
talked. We still
okay,
don't have an
okay.
answer to that resolution.
What is going to happen to somebody who records the meeting and doesn't disclose?
Josh, I would just hope that people would have the decency to abide by our rules. I have been witness to people that do not. Wait a minute. Dave, please. I have been here for a few meetings where people have not abided by the rules and have done this clandestinely.
And what's happening?
Nobody was thrown out of a meeting. Nobody was taken out, to use your thing, Rufus, and shot or anything like that. Nothing like that happened.
So why
all
have a
we're
rule?
doing, Josh, all we're doing is asking that they would act in a decent manner and respect our rules and our practices. That's all we're asking. If you don't do it, that's too bad. I just hope that people in today's world would act with a little more decorum and common sense, that they would just let us know what they're doing. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking.
You're
That's all
asking
this
to
is
try to
about.
put together rules so that
I'd like to
meetings
call
don't get
for. I'd like to
disrupted.
call for a vote on this motion. All
And-
those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No way.
Okay, moving right along with the agenda. Next is resolution number 26 of 2019, the McGrath subdivision, 351 Concord Road, final minor. We have that to go up on the screen, or is there a project manager's report, or what do we? No? Jamer, you got it? Okay, I think we went through this last month, and there were some issues with the,
Dominic,
this is the one with the
I can fill
easement.
you in.
Right, okay. I don't know if it's on or off. Certainly getting a workout tonight.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay,
Yes.
I just need to stand closer. Jamer Dowdy, member of the Planning Commission and project manager for this. I reviewed it last month, and there was one outstanding issue that the Township Council was not comfortable with, and that was a memorandum of agreement for the maintenance of the private drive that these houses are all utilize. I think that memo has been drafted now, so it should be all set for a vote.
I talked to counsel for the adjoining property owner. Is anybody here from this development this evening? Yes, sir. I guess Mike Siaco gets off.
Dan Arch, county engineer.
Yeah. Paul Padgett, who I talked to this morning, yes. Yes, according to him, it has all been taken care of. So, that being said, if no one minds, we'll take a stab at the resolution. Okay, this is resolution number 26 of 2019. Final minor subdivision plan prepared by Catania Engineers. Property is 2.08 acres, R2 residential zoning district, east side of Concord Road, 1,100 feet from the intersection of Madison Road. Going to be subdividing it into 2 lots. Number 1, it's subject to the following conditions: compliance with each of the comments contained in the Pimononi review letter dated February 13th, 2019. Number 2, compliance with each of the comments contained in the Delaware County Planning Commission letter dated December 20th, 2018. Number 3, compliance with each of the comments contained in the Sewage Enforcement Officer's Memorandum dated November 16th, 2018. All these are attached. Number 4, signed, sealed surveyor certification and placement of monuments and pins must be filed with the township prior to the recording of the signed plan. Number 5, compliance with each of the conditions and comments contained in the Buckeye Partners LP letter dated January 18th, 2019. Number 6, compliance with each of the comments contained in the fire marshal's email dated February 28th, 2019, also attached. Number 7, the deeds for both Lot 1 and 2 shall indicate that further subdivision is prohibited. Number 8, plans are to be submitted in electronic format acceptable to the Township Consulting Engineer. Number 9, all deeds for property, legal descriptions, easements, driveway easements, and stormwater maintenance agreements are to be submitted for review and approval by the Township Engineer and Township Solicitor prior to the release of the final plans. And there's one waiver from 16041B to allow the continued use of an existing non-conforming driveway to serve more than 2 single-family dwellings, which I think it does already, if I'm not mistaken. So we would need a motion to approve resolution number 26 of 2019. Do we have a motion to do so?
Mr. President, I move that we approve resolution number 26 of 2019.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are the conditions acceptable to the applicant?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, good luck with your project. Next is the demolition application for a Class 2 historic structure, number 162, the John Derry House. That also is involved with resolution number 27 of 2019, property located at 806 Baltimore Pike. We have a letter from the Historical Commission dated March 18, 2019. Historical Commission recommends granting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of the historic resource number 162, the J. Derry House. The conclusion was determined after review of the demolition application and a historic resource study and after meeting the applicant. The Historic Commission places the following qualifiers on this recommendation, which the applicant has already agreed to. There's 4 of them. 1 is to set up a site visit by the Historical Commission within the next month. 2, provide exterior and interior digital photographs of the resource and any other photographs of the property and surrounding area as specified by the Historical Commission during the site visit. Number 3, provide engineering drawings of the resource. Number 4, donation of any items of interest, including documents such as deeds to the Concord Township Historical Society. Is anyone from the Historical Society here, Commission, here tonight? The only question I had, in number 3, I don't know if that should, and if this is okay with the applicant, if that's changed from engineering to architectural-engineering drawings. I think engineering drawings are more of a structural drawing where I think they're going to be more interested in architectural details. And I think if you gave them a set of fully engineering drawings, they would not be happy with it. So let's clarify that. Does anyone on the board have an objection to changing that?
No.
Okay, so I would need a motion to accept the letter from the Historical Commission granting permission to demolish historic resource study number 162. Do we have, as revised?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is resolution number 27 of 2019, which is the companion to what we just did, which is 322 Plaza Associates, 806 Baltimore Pike. Jamer, you got this one too, or no? Rich got this one. And I see Matt Hootman's here on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Rizzo, the applicant, is also here.
The March 18th
Stand a little closer.
compliance,
A little closer like you did earlier to the microphone.
subject to compliance with the Pannoni Associated letter dated March 8th, 2019, Tom Committee Associates letter dated and updated September 24th, 2018, Bradford Engineer letter dated March 19th, 2019, DEP email dated February 27th, 2019, Concord Township Fire Marshal email dated February 28th, 2019, Historical Commission email dated March 18th, 2019, the Delaware County Planning Commission letter dated June 21, 2018, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation traffic study results have not occurred yet. Plans to be submitted in electronic copies to the township engineer. Basically, we've been reviewed, looked at it, preliminary approval.
Okay. Looks as though there are 13 conditions, and you've already recited the first 6, which is good. Perhaps we should take a stab at a resolution. I think Mr. Crossan, you want to bring your comment up now, and then we could just incorporate it into it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On condition 9 references the applicant shall submit the color architectural elevations and board materials for review and approval by council at the time of the final plan submission. I just wanted to add to that paragraph that the architectural design should reference the design of the historic structure being demolished, incorporate relevant architectural elements, and be in keeping with the design aesthetics of the Concordville Historic District.
Would that be a problem? Pardon?
Can you go to the microphone, sir? Thank you very much.
Sure, would that mean actually?
Sure. So at this point now,
Seen the old house? It's
sure. Right. So just with regard to buildings can be built sort of very boxy or more gables and things like that. So I think just sort of referencing elements that have a more of a historic look to it.
Part of the overlay district?
It is.
So as long as if they're consistent with the overlay district, I think we would have that. So if we can maybe embellish this by adding as referenced in the Concord Village Overlay District Design Standards. Does that help, John? No, I'm just trying to.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we change the last part to be in keeping with the design standards of the Concordville Historic Overlay District.
That's okay.
So architectural design should reference the design of the historic structure being demolished and be in keeping with the design standards of the Concordville Historic District.
When I get to that one, I'm going to let you add your wording. Yes, sir. You had a question real quick? Got to come up to the microphone again. We're going to have to get a mobile microphone.
Tucker, 86 Mendenhall Drive.
Yes, sir. I guess the best way to describe it is a little bit of blow up there. No, this is off of 322, and that's the Conchester Highway. And there's a driveway. I guess that one property, is that the Hayburn property there? There's a driveway there. It would be between the produce stand and that house next to it. There's a driveway. It goes back behind there. Basically a flag lot that more of it fronts 322 than anything else. Trying to visualize it? That piece on the triangular piece on the corner, well, there we go. See it? Does that help you better? A little bit? Behind that and behind where the old service station was. Okay? Does that clarify it? All right, so if we will, we'll take a stab at a resolution number 27 of 2019, which is a preliminary subdivision land development plan, 322 Plaza Associates, 2 folio numbers. There are, as I said, 13 conditions. The first 6 all had a reference to the consultant's reviews letters, which were previously recited by Mr. Julison. Number 7 is signed, sealed surveyor certification and placement of monuments and pins must be filed with the township prior to the recording of the signed plans. Number 8, compliance with the stipulation agreement dated February 16, 2009, attached here 2 as Exhibit G. Notably that per item 2E, if there are any unresolved litigation disputes involving appellant and the said adjoining landowners pertaining to the right of the appellant to utilize the aforementioned 30-foot wide easement, such litigation dispute will be finally resolved before the township will issue any building permits. Further, no township permits, including E&S permit, demolition permit, road opening permits, or other township permits will be issued or approved and such litigation dispute is finally resolved and all easements are recorded. That's been going on for a while, and I think you're close to conclusion on that with the adjoining property owner. Applicants shall submit, number 9, applicants shall submit color architectural elevations and color board materials for review and approval by council at the time of the final plan submission. Approval of the elevations and materials for the building shall be obtained prior to the issuance of any building permits. All buildings are to be constructed as per the approved architectural elevations, including screening of any rooftop mechanical equipment. John, you want to take over from there?
The architectural design should reference the design of the historic building being demolished, incorporate relevant architectural elements as able, and be in keeping with the design, aesthetics, and requirements of the Concordville Historic Overlay District.
Okay. Number 10, plans are to be submitted in an electronic format acceptable to the township engineer. Number 11, payment of an open space park and rec fee in lieu as per Resolution 7 of 2019 shall be made prior to the release of the signed plans. 12, developer agrees to enter into development and improvement security agreements prior to release of the signed plans. And 13, all deeds for properties, legal descriptions, easements, driveway easements, and stormwater maintenance agreements are to be submitted for review and approval by the township engineer and the township solicitor prior to the release of the signed plans. I have a motion to approve Resolution 27, 2019 with Mr. Crossan's addendum.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Next is Resolution 28 of 2019, Marist Grove Skilled Nursing Unit. I see Mr. Fritz and Mr. Mitlowski are here. Does somebody from the Planning Commission have this one? Okay, whoever it is, they're up. Please use the microphone accordingly. Matt, I assume everything is acceptable to your client the way he exited the building? Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Jamer Dowdy, member of the Planning Commission and project manager for the Marist Grove Plan Development Plan. This plan was previously accepted with resolution number 50 of 2006. The amendment is now coming in for an expansion of their extended care center. The Planning Commission has reviewed it, has recommended approval. There are 7 waivers that were previously granted. Because they're previously granted, they're on record. I assume I don't need. The Planning Commission does recommend approval in compliance with the consulting letters. That's the Township's engineer letter dated March 11th, 2019. Thomas Committa letter dated March 18th, 2019. Stubby Consulting for the proposed lighting plan dated March 15th, 2019. The Delaware County Planning letter, Planning Department letter dated March 21st, 2019. And the Sewer Enforcement Officer's memo dated March 18th, 2019. All final plans submitted in electronic format suited to the township.
Stab at it and see where we go. Resolution number 28 of 2019, amended final land development plan for Erickson Living Management, owners of 90.997 acre property located within the continuing care retirement community overlay zoning district. Whereas the applicant proposes to expand the extended care center with neighborhood 2 of Marist Grove campus by constructing a 78,636 square foot expansion of the Renaissance Garden building and associated stormwater management, landscaping and utilities necessary to support the improvements. Building served by public water and public sewer. It's approved, recommended for approval subject to the following conditions. Compliance with each of the comments in the Pannoni letter dated March 11th, 2019, and that's attached as an exhibit. Number 2, compliance with each of the comments contained in the Thomas Committa review letter dated March 20th, 2019, that's also an exhibit. Compliance with each of the comments contained in the Delaware County Planning Department letter dated March 21st, 2019, with the exception of the pedestrian connectivity comment regarding sidewalks. That's also an exhibit. Number 4, compliance with each of the comments contained in the Bradford Engineering email dated March 19, 2019, attached here to as Exhibit D. Number 5, compliance with each of the comments contained in the Fire Marshal's email dated February 28, 2019, Exhibit E. Number 6, plans to be submitted in electronic format. Number 7, applicant will submit color architectural elevations and color board materials for review and approval by the Township Council. All buildings to be constructed in substantial conformity with the approved architectural elevations. Number 8, all levels and areas of buildings must be sprinklered with the plans to be approved by the Fire Marshal. Number 9, developer agrees to enter into development security agreements prior to the release of the record plans for this phase. Number 10, developer agrees that developer, its assignees, and or agents will be reasonably maintain the area cut grass between the fence line of the Concord campus and the roadways of Britton Lake and Spring Valley Road. As said earlier, there were 7 waivers, one from 16042A, sidewalks along both sides of the collector road since it is internal. Number 2, 16039C2, Spring Valley Road to be classified as a local access highway with 80-foot right-of-way. Number 3, 16023A1, plant scale of 1 inch equals 50 feet. Number 4, 16049F3, greater than 20% disturbance of wetland margins. Number 5, 16049G6B, greater than 30% disturbance of steep slopes areas. Number 6, 148-7B1B, disturbance of slopes greater than 25%. Number 7, 16053F, landscaping planting areas reasonably dispersed throughout the parking lot. Adam, I think these are the same 7 waivers that have followed this plan since its inception.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
We're not asking.
Right. So this is from Maureen. How many years ago was that? That's got to be 2004 when we started this plan. I was there for what the shovel, the groundbreaking, the ribbon cutting. I was there when they brought the plans in. Getting old. Pretty soon I'm gonna need a room there. Anyway.
And this is it, right? They're basically out of space.
They would have to do a calculation. I think they are out of space, but sometimes there are some minor tweaks that come along. And yeah.
Not asking.
Exactly. Yeah, when we did that master plan back in the day.
All this actually.
Okay. Anyway, do we need a motion to approve Resolution 28 of 2019?
I move that we approve the Maris Grove Neighborhood 2 Extended Care Center as presented.
Seconded.
Second. Any questions or discussion? Maureen, did you have a question back there? What? No. This is, can you show, where is it on the campus? This is up behind, this is, can you show where the Wawa is? That might be the best way to orient it. See where directly behind the Wawa? Not there, right there. So it's not along Spring, it's internal to the site. Part of it does, they're building in addition to it. It's the, if anyone's been there or had a family member there, that's where the skilled nursing unit is, and that's what they're adding to, Maureen. So you really won't, I don't even think you'll see it from the road. If you did, you'd probably just see a portion of the wing. Everything else is internal to the site.
Maureen.
This was, Maureen, you got to go up to the microphone.
I can tell you that building is added.
Yeah.
Basically.
They have done that on a few occasions. Some of the buildings, when they were originally laid out to the time they went to construction, locations had to be tweaked and it had to come in. When you were both at the microphone, it looked like you were Sonny and Cher. I was just... Okay, and yeah, Adam's not a good singer. No.
That is actually true. But I do know the words to "I Got You, Babe."
Okay. That's more than we needed to know, Adam. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Hold on. There's
yes.
Number 9, just for the record, should say recorded plans, correct? Not record plans. Other than that, I'm an aye.
Release of the record plans for the plays.
Recorded plans for this video.
Record plans.
Is it record plans?
Record. Yes.
I stand correct.
How we've normally done it.
Thank you for the clarification.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Crossan, you want to take number 6? That's the Open Space Committee. Maureen, good luck with the project. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Nate noted earlier, the council noted earlier this year, the Concord Township received a DCNR grant to update our open space plan, which currently dates to 2007, and so it's time for an update. And we did receive a grant to undertake that work, and we appointed Pannoni and Associates, our township engineer, to lead that work in collaboration with other organizations, including Brandywine Conservancy and Natural Lands. As part of that work, we are putting together an open space plan update steering committee, and that steering committee is made up of a variety of members, including 2 council members, 2 planning commission members, 1 Parks and Rec member, 1 school district member, 1 member from BYC, 1 historic commission or society member, and 3 township residents. As the council liaisons to open space, Libby Salvucci and I were charged with developing a list of recommended individuals for appointment. We reached out to the various groups that were mentioned, received their recommendations, contacted these individuals who have all agreed to serve, and these individuals are all well-known and highly respected members of our community. So Libby and I are happy to note the following, to put forth the following names for appointment to this ad hoc committee. The 2 planning commission members would be Rich Julison and Sean Lawler. The Parks and Rec member would be Mary Beth Distilio. The school district member would be Scott Mayer, who is a Concord resident and chair of the facilities committee. The BYC member would be Paul Padgen. From the Historic Commission and Society, she's from the Society, is Leslie Berkeyheiser. And the 3 residents are Ken Hempel, who is a well-known open space activist and preservationist, Mark Wilcox of Ivy Mills, and Tony Shahan from the Newland Grist Mill. And then Libby and I would serve as the 2 council members. Mr. President, I so move that we make these appointments so that the open space plan update work can begin.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Do we have a discussion, please?
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry, Gus.
I'm going to vote no on this because the process here is just beyond the pale. It's, I guess, not that significant in the whole scheme of things, but we got 11 names emailed to us at 4:14 p.m. this afternoon. Is the first time that I've seen these names. I do know most of these people, but not all of them. Would have liked the opportunity to, I guess, think about it and possibly frame some questions outside of my day job. But there is no opportunity, no opportunity to do that now. And my understanding is that Mr. Mayor has not actually yet confirmed that he is going to serve. Is that correct? Is that what I read in your email? I mean, it came through so quick.
I received confirmation from Rosemary that he did.
That he did. When did that come through?
This evening.
So, I'm sorry?
This evening.
So after 4:14. Yes. I just don't get the process anymore. I mean, this is no way to run a business.
Okay, thank you. I want to add to, I applaud Mr. Crossan's efforts and Ms. Salvucci's efforts. John has taken our open space acquisition and planning to a new level, and one that I'm proud to support. and I think that he has done a great job in assembling a committee here. I was interested in Rufus' reaction when we mentioned Mr. Hempel, but I think Mr. Hempel, although we sometimes don't see eye to eye, I think he would be a great addition to the task force here, and I can support this. So let's have a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay. Next, John, will you handle? Yes, ma'am? Yeah, we're going to need you at the microphone, please.
Kindly taken a handle on. Where's the money coming from for this?
Sure. So you'll recall that earlier this year, there was this surplus that was in the general fund, and
Found that surplus.
Amanda Sirach, our township manager.
I was there that Josh Gorski found that.
No.
You asked
Amanda
a question,
brought
I answered
this. He answered the question.
I'm sorry.
Amanda
what?
found it.
Amanda.
I don't think that's accurate.
Amanda found it. Amanda,
Our township manager.
can you give me a date on that, please?
And I'll forward you my
And then can you give me the amount, please, that you found the money, Amanda?
So found money is actually an interesting term to
what
use
would you
here.
guys
So
call it?
the audits for years have talked about fund balance, including the council's budget that gets passed. So there's been discussions about fund balance, so it's not like found money, if that makes sense. It was not lost, is what I'm trying to say to you. So as one of my recommendations when I came in and saw the audit a year ago, I had suggested that the council work on fund balance policies being updated in order to better manage the finances. So I did bring it up to council about the fund balances and how they could be better protected and used.
How much was that fund balance, Amanda?
I don't know exactly off the top of my head.
But you found it?
It's not found.
Wasn't lost.
So it's always been there
You
on the
audited
balance
whatever
sheet.
you
Brought
want,
to the
whatever
public?
language you want to use.
One at a time.
So I noticed in our audits when I first came and spoke with the auditors and township staff who have responsibilities under policies to do certain things. And I had suggested a policy that would better protect those monies and brought it up to council during our budgeting process this year, probably around September or August.
Saying September, August, and
So August, when we start discussions of budget, and possibly sooner to some folks, I mentioned that our fund balances, they should really be moving the monies to other areas where there's dedicated streams of income to use those monies. So does that make
you
sense?
have no idea, Amanda, what the amount of money was. Is that what you're saying right now?
Well, you're asking me for like an exact amount?
I said around.
You didn't say around, but I am happy to provide
You don't
that
have to correct me, Amanda.
I'm sorry. You're
Please be respectful.
Ma'am,
It's disrespectful when you do
Please,
that. That's what it
please.
feels like. I'm just telling you.
Ma'am,
Please be
I'm sorry,
respectful.
but you sort of have heated me that I am not prepared for. So
I assume
apologize.
Understanding that there was this money for the open space.
There
so
is
the open space plan update is actually monies that were budgeted for in our capital fund, and they're matching grants. So the township applied for a DCNR grant a year ago, and we've been awarded, and we have matching funds towards that.
Okay, how much was that money? How much is that money for a year ago?
So I believe the grant was about 40,000, and that's an about number again.
Yeah.
And
I'm just looking for the numbers
sure.
to find out how much money is going into this. This is extremely important to the township people.
So
this,
the
is,
update-
this is what we're looking for here in the township.
Absolutely.
We're not looking for any more buildings to go up.
Sure.
This is what's so disappointing. When I've lived here 20 years. Dominic, you've been here for 20 years in that position, correct?
I've been here, I moved here in 1990.
Right. And I've seen nothing but buildings go up and traffic. And that's where I want to see change.
So with regard to the details of the open space plan, if you go onto the township website and you go under trails, so just go to the left navigation, go down to trails, and you'll see that there was an update that was given in at our last month's meeting, at the March meeting. You'll see a aerial picture.
Saying March meeting?
Correct. And within that presentation,
Last March, you're saying?
at last month's meeting, Nate Klein, our township engineer, gave an update. And that presentation.
I'm forgetting it's April, so bear with me.
No worries. April 2nd. So, but if you just go to the website under Trails, you can click on a presentation, and there's a slide on there that talks about this open space plan and the time frame and the money allocated towards
And what's
it.
going to happen? Okay.
Correct.
So where is this money that Josh has talked about? Where is this money? Did
Earlier
you not
this year.
speak about some money?
Hey, Mr. Crossan wants to answer your
Josh,
question.
I'm asking Josh
To
right
answer your
now,
question,
though.
there was about $10.5 million in what I term over-collected taxes over an 11-year period that has been sitting in the general fund for quite some time until quite recently moved approximately, I believe it was $4.5 million. It may have been $4 million of that. We kind of just reshuffled the deck chairs and put, what was it, $1 million into the open space fund, which is a dedicated fund, so it cannot, for all intents and purposes, be moved. And then we took another $3.5 million and put it into the capital reserve fund and did this thing where we said we're tagging it for land purchases, but since it's not a dedicated fund, we actually could move it to just about any other fund at any time that we want to. So that's kind of an asterisk there on that money as well.
Okay, so I don't understand this language. Tag for land purchases, what does that mean exactly? Anybody? I don't know. Who would handle that?
I don't know.
Okay, what's that, Amanda?
I can resign me. So in a fund balance policy, there's language like committed, assigned, dedicated, and those monies get, so a layman term for everybody's more earmarked. Does that make sense? So we have it set up actually within our funds for any monies that are dedicated to be used solely for that. So an example is, we might have agreements that come in with land amount like you saw tonight, where they're required to, let's say, update traffic signals at some point. So when that money comes in, it gets committed and earmarked in that fund, which means that that's its sole purpose. So there's definitions in our policy that state what that's to be used for. So for example, the money, there was $4.5 million, Josh is correct. $3.5 million went into the capital reserve fund, and that is earmarked as committed assigned funds, meaning those funds are to be used for land purchases by motion of council. So those funds, that's what they will be forever earmarked for.
When you say motion of council, what does that mean?
So council made a motion at a public meeting for the moving of those funds and the committing of those funds. So the earmarking. So $1 million went to open space and $3.5 million went to the capital reserve fund for land purchases.
What's important to realize, excuse me, Annette, what's important to realize, though, is that they're very different funds in the way that they're structured and were originally set up, in that the open space fund is a dedicated fund and cannot, generally speaking, the funds must be used for open space, where the funds that were put into and moved to the capital reserve fund don't necessarily have to be used for capital reserve. And that's Amanda had that little term of art where she says that by ordinance or by passage of council, in other words, we could recommend to move it into the open space fund or back to the general fund for that matter at any time we want. So it's not really committed for.
Well, wait a minute. Whoa.
Anyway.
Let's back up here a little. I was in the meeting when we sat at the back of the room and we decided to transfer this $4.5 million. And you were on board with putting it in a separate account and earmarking it strictly for open space. I have yet to hear anyone on this board speak to the contrary of that. My understanding is there's $4.5 million, and maybe it's in this pant pocket and the rest of it's in this pant pocket, but there's $4.5 million that this board committed to open space. So you can call it whatever you want, Josh, but the fact that it's not in the open space account is it's all devoted to open space. I would not vote as long as I'm going to be here to move that money. We made that commitment for $4.5 million for open space acquisition.
Then why didn't we put it in open space?
Excuse me, let me hear. I'd like to talk to the resident, Josh. Yes, ma'am.
So where can I find that in paperwork?
Paperwork, it was made at a motion. I think there's a motion somewhere.
Sure. So there's actually minutes online that'll have that motion that was made for the earmarking of those monies, and then also the like I have balance sheets, so I'm happy anytime if you want to give me a right to know request, I'd be happy to share that with you. We have financials that I can share anytime.
It does bring up an interesting question about the fund balance policy. Do we actually have a new one yet?
No, so we have one currently in place, and we're actually working on one moving forward.
And
What's a fund balance policy?
Yeah, so it's the policy that spells out what council and or the management, which is Amanda and the others at the township building, how the general fund or surpluses are supposed to be allocated or used when there is a surplus or there's monies in the general fund. In other words, should it be moved to the capital reserve fund or to open space if there's surpluses every year or there's an excess in the general fund? And it's interesting. I'm going to send an email on this tomorrow. It's interesting this came up, which is that under the old general fund, council was required in writing, and it's at the end of the general fund policy, council was required in writing, if there were surpluses, to show and do something with the surpluses. And again, since there was $10.5 million sitting in the general fund for 10 or 11 years, that never happened, as far as I can tell. So I'd like to actually, and that's my request going to be, is I'd like to see the minutes and or actually it says that there should be a memo that was produced from council for past years showing what those surpluses were and general fund was going to be used for. So that will be forthcoming.
Appreciate Josh's honesty with everything. I'm a little nervous about the rest of the group, but I have to be honest. I'm watching Josh. I'm watching every single one of you as you go through this. Dominic, you've been there for 20 years. 20 years.
That's right. I got 2 more to go.
You want 20 more years? Is that what
I
you're
have
saying?
2 more to go. Good. I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are.
Josh, in response to your previous comments, is it actually interesting that this came up, or is this just planned political theater for the purposes of grandstanding prior to an election?
Whatever you'd like it to be for the cameras tonight, John.
Josh, we know what it is.
I know. It's just all in bad faith. It's like filing a financial interest report. You just check none.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Annette. I was referencing Josh's comments, not yours.
Thank you for your comments. Moving right along, agenda item number 7. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, if we could get back to township business, I would appreciate it. Item number 7.
Go ahead, John. Just keep going. Go ahead.
This is not a political event.
John.
This is township business.
John,
township business.
All right. Next item on the agenda is authorized advertisement of bid documents. Go ahead, John.
Authorize the advertisement and bid documents that'll be prepared by Pannoni Associates, our township engineer. There's 4 projects that I'd like to talk about. Number 1, the road program for 2019. And I'd like this work to be scheduled during the summer vacation time, so there's no interference with school buses. And that's the way we normally do our road program. Second project are the pickleball courts, and this I would like to be scheduled for construction this year, a total of 6 courts, and I've been working very close with the Gherkins, which is the pickleball club. I see Betty Alcorn in the audience tonight, and that's the second project. Third project is the dog park relocation and volleyball courts, which I'd also like to see completed this year. Fourth project is the township parking lot, sealing and restriping at 43 Thornton Road, again, completed this year. So Megan, if you would get that information to Nate, I would appreciate it. So that is in the form of a motion, Mr. President.
So moved.
Discussion. All those in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There is no financial security release, no plans for filing, other council matters. Anybody have anything?
At next week, the Conservation Fund, together with the National Parks Foundation, is hosting a summit at Winterthur Museum regarding open space and commerce. And I've been invited to speak by Blaine Phillips of the Conservation Fund on behalf of Concord Township with regard to our work on the land that's moving into the National Park in Beaver Valley.
Under upcoming township meetings and events, probably the biggest ones, April 13th, the Recycle Day event over at the Township Garage between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. April 13th, the Easter egg hunt at 11 a.m. over at 40 Bethel Road. Recycle Day says 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. It's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Rufus, you had
It's a
asked
long day.
on April 13th at 1 p.m. at the Senior Center, we're going to be unveiling the plaque, roadway dedication for John and Silva Small. And on April 30th, there's an ordinance hearing. Mr. Donahue mentioned earlier, right now it's tentatively scheduled. Well, the ordinance hearing is not the zoning hearing board hearing. For the marijuana grow sites dispensaries, that's the hearing for the ordinance from last time. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you for coming out.